Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's kick off then with the Brathay Trust, and I'm going to hand over to Stefan in a second to host this with Cath Hempsall. Cath is a learning and development consultant at Brathay and has been project managing the Changing Culture Programme, which is the leadership training programme for aspiring leaders in the arts, culture and heritage sector for the last 2 years in partnership with the University of Cumbria and Theatre by the Lake. So a really great piece of work that is culminating soon. So Stefan, I'm going to hand over to you, and Cath, I will get your slides ready and I will start them off when Stefan hands over to you. So over to you, Stefan.
Thank you, Tom, and hello, Cath. Very nice to see you on the call. Perhaps a good intro, just a quick update on our meeting a week tomorrow, which sets the context for Brathay, who are being lovely hosts for that event. It's very exciting because for some time, although these meetings have been extremely successful and our quarterlies have been online, obviously, recently, many people have asked for us to consider having in-person meetings again. So Brathay, who are quite experienced at doing this, have offered to host our next quarterly meeting a week tomorrow, Saturday morning, in a departure from the regular Friday slot, and giving people the opportunity to be there in person. And if you haven't been to Brathay, we're about to hear how lovely it is. So it's a fantastic venue. We're getting hospitality for Brathay, and we will blend that meeting. So if you can't make it or don't feel comfortable making it, we will of course be offering it on Zoom as well. Of course, things change, and almost immediately after we published our lineup of speakers, I'm afraid that we had a withdrawal. So Sarah Maxfield from the Arts Council is no longer available, but we have CACN's very own Hazel Blears presenting as one of our keynote speakers as well. So we've got a very strong lineup of contributors and speakers for that meeting. And the added bonus is, as we're about to hear, the day is a very full one. If you choose to turn up, there's the CACN meeting in the morning, and then after your free lunch, you can stay on and enjoy a showcase of presentations by the cohort of students who are just completing the Changing Culture programme, which we're about to hear more about. So please sign up. Just to be clear, in the invitations you'll have seen on the Facebook postings, on the website, etc., we've put an RSVP, which is for you to claim your lunch, but it's also part of the health and safety aspects that Brathay need for their own purposes. So please use that to sign up, so we can keep an eye on how many people are intending to appear in person. So that's a week on Saturday, and look forward to seeing lots of you there. Cath, welcome. Brathay, which I've had the pleasure of visiting a couple of times, but my impression is that it really is making a great offer and a groundbreaking offer for young people, but I don't think that's the full story, is it?
It's not the full story, and I don't know if Tom wants to sort of take this opportunity to start my slides. What I thought I'd do is sort of say where we are now, but also where we've come from. That's brilliant, Tom, thank you. So this is us, and you'll see from our very snazzy new logo that we've been operating as a charity for 75 years, which in itself I think is pretty fantastic. And as Stefan just said there, we are all about enhancing the opportunities and the livelihoods of young people, not just in Cumbria, but also in the whole of, well, Northern England and the Northwest. So we have offices in Bradford and Wigan and Barrow, as well as our main hall in Ambleside. And we work with a huge number of other funders, principally the Scott Trust in Cumbria, but also large organisations like Bernardo's, organisations like Wigan Council, to just create opportunities for children, support programmes for children, young people and families. And that's the sort of the nub of our work, if you like, our value, as it says there. It's about creating long-lasting personal change. Obviously, all of that costs money, and we know that particularly in the last 15 years with austerity, that money has not been as free-flowing from government as we'd like it to be. So we also have a commercial side of the organisation as well, and that's the side that I work in. So we offer commercially people development and leadership coaching for businesses in the private, public and third sector. We do what you'd consider, I suppose, to be a very traditional outdoor residential for schools. And in fact, we've had a primary school in this week, which has been fantastic, 40 year fives who've been out on sort of mountain days and on the climbing wall and that sort of thing. You can also stay at the main hall, which is a Grade 2 listed Georgian building at the head of the lake in Ambleside with beautiful views. And we'll have some pictures of that in the following slides. And we also run challenge events. So you may have seen the Brathay logo linked with the ASICS Windermere Marathon, if you've been around that, the Row Runner events, the pudding race that runs up Langdale at the beginning of December, where you cross over the line and get handed a Christmas pudding, and that sort of thing. So we have a really varied offering, embedded both at the head of the lake, just outside Ambleside, but also across the northwest. But the key point for us is that we are having this, running as a social enterprise, offering this social opportunity to people who wouldn't normally have access to that. But we are doing that, funding it, both through the sort of normal things of getting grants and reaching out to councils and the government, but also by having this commercial side that any profit that comes from that can be poured back into the organisation. Tom, could we move on to the next slide, please? So I think pictures are more brilliant, thank you. Pictures are more exciting, I think, than words and saying what we do. So this middle picture here, this is the hall. So just put this in context, that it was Georgians, built in the 18th century, went through a succession of owners quite quickly, but all of whom had quite key interests, I suppose, in the arts, culture and heritage sector in Cumbria, as it was in the 18th century and the 19th century. So William Wordsworth has stayed, and Sam Taylor Coleridge has stayed, and John Harden, the artist, lived here for a period of time and did a number of paintings of the hall from the lake, some of which are artistically beautiful, but should we say geographically challenged, where the Langdales are switched over with Fairfield, just because it creates a nicer aspect for people to look at. And I love that idea of the picturesque, where it's not necessarily reality that's being reflected, obviously, but just an impression. And that then really continued. So the hall went through a number of owners. And then after the Second World War, it was bought by a trust set up in a similar way to the Outward Bound Trust, which was also founded after the Second World War, with the principal idea of giving relief to people in the cities. And of course, lots of the cities in the north of England suffered horribly during the Second World War, to provide relief. So they ran week-long breaks for young boys only, of course. Girls weren't allowed education at this time, it turns out. That rapidly changed, luckily. So they ran these week-long trips for boys, and there was, at the heart of that, a real cultural message. So as part of it, they produced a newspaper, they put on a drama production. We do have a theatre on site, and there are costumes. And so I suppose what I'm trying to say there is, I think there is a mindset of what a traditional outdoor centre looks like, and we're not an outdoor centre. Despite the fact, if you look at the bottom left and top right photos here, you'll see that we incorporate some of those more traditional elements into what we do. It's about finding the right tool for the job to create opportunity, stretch and challenge for the people who come and stay with us. And that also involves us going to them as well. So top left is an outreach project using music and art that we did in Bradford a couple of years ago. So we'll also go out into the communities where we work. It's about bringing people to us, and it's about us going to them and taking our values and practice outside. And then the bottom right one there, that's, you might have seen these whalers out on the lake if you're ever out there, lucky enough to be out there yourself, but we're really lucky to have lakeside access and a boathouse and these old restored clinker rowing boats that can seat 6 people, which is just a brilliant place for sort of conversation and just mulling about. And we go out at night in them with lights on, and they're just a great way to have a bit of an adventure. Next slide, please, Tom. Fantastic. So I got involved with the Brathay Trust, as Stefan said, 2 years ago. And the reason I'm here today really is that at the moment, I'm the closest person to the sector working within the trust. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Jackie. Jackie's talking about the Be Savvy course, which is still running, which is a fantastic programme that we run down out of our Barrow Hub as well. So the Changing Culture programme got funding from Arts Council England as part of the Transforming Leadership Fund. It's one of 18 projects that shared 7 million to start to recruit in 2019 and start in 2020, which it turned out wasn't the most auspicious year to start a large nationwide training programme for people with face-to-face learning, but here we are, 2 years later. We recruited 19 participants, and we had a really broad aim, which was to train and develop young leaders or aspiring leaders in the arts to enable them to stay within Cumbria and North Lancashire and to develop the skills they needed to be able to operate successfully in the sector. We did this through 4 different ways. So we worked on personal development and leadership skills, presentation, dealing with conflict at residentials. They are undertaking, and the last modules are coming in at the moment, a diploma in higher education in social enterprise leadership in partnership with the University of Cumbria. They really benefited from mentors from within the sector, and I know we've got some mentors on the call today, so great opportunity for me to say thank you so much for your contributions to the programme. Absolutely invaluable. And likewise, we've got some members here from host organisations, so our participants were linked with a host organisation to just broaden their experience from within the sector. And the Transforming Leadership Fund as a whole recognised the problems of diversity and access to leadership in the arts, culture and heritage sector. And so this programme was really designed to implement that. It's been a really exciting 2 years, as you can imagine, trying to deliver a programme through the heart of the pandemic when universities stayed open, but pretty much everything else closed, has been really challenging. And all I can do is just say a huge amount of kudos to our participants who just were incredible, just absolutely incredible, awe-inspiring, resilient, humorous, fantastic, committed, just extraordinary group of people that have managed this on top of their everyday life, on top of everything that's been going on in the last 2 years. And just, yeah, what a fantastic group of people to have the privilege of working with. Next slide, please. And so some of our highlights over the last 2 years, the top 2 photos on the right were recreating sculptures in the style of Andy Goldsworthy using natural materials as part of their assessed residential that they did in leadership and team dynamics. And that's the bottom picture as well. And it seems absolutely extraordinary to me now, went to the Edinburgh Fringe last year for 5 days, which was brilliant. We went to visit organisations like Out of the Blue and Edinburgh Palette. The top picture there is us having a meeting with Lindsay Jackson, the Deputy CEO of the Edinburgh Fringe Society. I'm so excited. She's also going to be speaking a week on Saturday at the Quarterly as one of the keynote speakers. She was fantastic in inspiring our group with a story of kind of how she'd made it essentially to get to the position she was in. Absolutely fabulous. And one of the key strengths that's come out of this programme, and something I suppose I really want to hold on to, is that this group of people have made the connections between themselves and found a support network just through being on the programme, that they've been able to reach out to each other, to collaborate with each other on work, to sort of hold each other to account, to inspire each other. And so that's been really fabulous sort of offshoot of it. It was incredible. They came on site for the first time in January 2020 for a first residential and just bonded entirely as a group, which has just made everything so much easier and more fun and brilliant. And I think that's, again, another fantastic credit to them. They've come from all over the place, from Blackpool and Workington and Carlisle and Ulverston and Barrow, but they found across that sort of geographical distance a real closeness and warmth through sharing this experience together. And that's been absolutely fantastic. Next slide, please, Tom. I'm conscious of the time, we need time for questions. I've only got a couple more. So where do we want to go next? Because as Stefan said, the Changing Culture programme was originally scheduled to end in December. Because of the pandemic, we've rolled over a little bit with it, with the academic pieces and with our last piece of delivery being a week on Saturday. But it is coming to an end. The funding for it finishes in March. And a question for us really as an organisation is what next? Because we want to hold on to our involvement and our connections within the sector. We've really appreciated the value of having this group on site, having the Changing Culture programme as part of what we offer at Brathay. So we're very keen to continue our partnerships with Theatre by the Lake and the University of Cumbria, and those are ongoing. We're happy with that. We really want to integrate more creative work into our programmes, particularly our work with young people, and we'd be really, really open to any offers of collaboration. Anyone who's sort of seen that, I'd really love to get involved with that. We'd love to welcome more organisations onto our site and just say, come and use our space. please, this is a fantastic facility. It's a great spot to be in. It has its issues with public transport, but doesn't the whole of Cumbria. And there are ways we can get around that. And that would be fabulous. I'd love to have our site enlivened by more cultural productions and going on. And we're just looking for opportunities really to find new partnerships, to try and be more present within the sector, and to try, I suppose, disabuse the notion that we are an outdoor centre. We're a people development organisation, and that's the bit we're really interested in. And we completely recognise and value the role that the arts, culture and heritage sector has to play in that work. And I think we can be richer as an organisation if we embrace that more fully. You'll be pleased to know that the next slide, Tom, if we can move on, is a questions. And any questions for me?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. That was great. Can I just pick up straight away and ask you, that's a great offer, and I'm sure it'll be of interest to individual artists and organisations on the call and on the network. But what are the key skills and expertise you think you could offer to people in this sector if they were to come to Brathay?
So one of the things we were hoping to do coming out of the CCP course, and how should I put that? It's quite irritating that the Arts Council don't want to fund any leadership development going forward. I would say that is our real speciality, is to work with individuals to improve confidence. It feels to me like certainly the groups that we've been working with feel that they have an element of imposter syndrome, an element of I don't deserve to be in this sector, it's difficult for me to work in this sector, can I really do this? That's a barrier we've worked really hard to break down with the groups we've worked with. And I think that's a barrier we can continue breaking down to show that this isn't unachievable by any means, it's entirely achievable. And we have participants achieving it and launching new organisations, new social enterprises, new products, new talents into the market. So I feel like that sort of personal confidence building thing works really strongly. We're also just a really delightful, quiet space in the Lake District, which is a beautiful kind of reflective space to come to. We have the ceramicist Miles Moore on site. They have a workshop and small gallery here, and they've obviously been inspired by the area in which they work. And we sort of tour around the archives, and we're going through them at the moment as part of our process of celebrating 75 years as an organisation. And we've got beautiful artwork that's been painted on the site and beautiful sort of, mixed media things that have been produced. So I suppose it's an invitation to say that we are a private site. We don't just wander on and crack on with things, but we'd really like to collaborate on that front if people want access to something. I think particularly the shore of Windermere can feel like a very closed space. It's very difficult to get access to the lake. It's very difficult to get access to that head of the lake. Most of it is private lockdown properties. A lot of it is second homes. So I suppose it's an offer to democratise that space. Yeah. It really opens that process if that's something that appeals. And it is, as Jackie says, it is fantastic for a swim. Especially if the wind's coming from the north, because the bay's really tucked down and it's just delightful.
A lot of support for Jackie's suggestion that we consider a CACN event there, which obviously we will do beyond next Saturday. I don't know if there's any questions that I've missed in the chat there, Tom, or anything that anyone would want to ask.
I've got a question actually. Can I ask a question, which is, Cath, for the young people, I think you said 19 young people you took on, is there any sort of, how confident are you that they are going to stay in Cumbria and they are going to, be good for the county?
I suppose it's a half and half, because I know some of those young people have already found work outside the county. They've moved down to take up opportunities in Manchester and Edinburgh, exactly as you'd expect, and to fantastic opportunities that for their personal development are great. We've also got people who have launched already in Cumbria. So Horizon Studio has launched in Barrow. That's 2 of our students. They're working on, I think, 11 projects with young people in different organisations. So I think at the moment it's a mix of both. It's a really interesting piece, and I'm really excited that as part of the programme, the Arts Council is funding a 2-year longitudinal evaluation programme. That means we'll be able to track our participants from now until the end of 2024. So we'll get a much better sense as they come out at the end of the programme of what that picture is. We know traditionally that there has been that movement away from Cumbria generally by young people who then return to Cumbria after they've had a career elsewhere and they feel like they're in a position to come back. That's the cycle that we've tried to break a bit with this, but it's a really embedded cycle. So I think that's a difficult one to break. But I'm excited this evaluation will give us that data. And I think at the moment coming out of the pandemic, realistically, it was always going to be more likely that people would leave just because of the economic pressures of being in the area as well.
Thank you, Cath. And we really look forward to seeing you and seeing the glories of Brathay a week tomorrow. Thank you.
And I'll just pop the link for our website into the chat, so if anyone wants to just save that and have a look at it later. It's also got the contact form on there, so if you did want to get in touch, that's a really good way of doing it.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Cath. And I look forward to meeting you in person a week tomorrow. That should be lovely. Right, Kate, over to you.
Yes, so Tom referred earlier to the All-Party Parliamentary Group Inquiry Report, what a mouthful that is, into Northern culture, which has just been published. Some of us on this call and within the wider network contributed to that inquiry, and indeed were quoted in the report, which is nice. But Colin, you went to the launch of that report. I just wondered what you took away from that little occasion, which was online earlier this week.
Thanks, Kate. Yes, it was an interesting day in Parliament on Wednesday. So we had a lot of representation there from parliamentarians, which was really good, given everything else that was going on. It was the group is co-chaired by James Daly, who's a Conservative MP, and Julie Elliott, who's a Labour MP. The whole inquiry was genuinely cross-party, which is always a very positive move when you were trying to achieve things like this. So what the report is about, the all-party parliamentary groups, and anybody who knows of different APBGs in Parliament, it's where various members of Parliament get together about something that they're really passionate about, and they gather evidence and then create a report that can then be used for influencing decision-making in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So it is a really important report for Northern culture, because it provides the evidence that we can use, that the MPs can use to actually drive forward what we want to deliver for culture in the North. So it was genuinely cross-party. It was authored by Professor Katie Shaw from Northumbria University. And as Kate has just said, they welcomed evidence from right across the North, and Cumbria was very well represented. So thank you to everybody who contributed, both in the report and in the presentation on Wednesday. Just to sort of say what the APBG about is about providing a united voice for Northern culture, and it sets out asks and priorities to shape and influence government thinking. It was also about generating debate on how to boost the various elements that affect culture, so skills, diversity, equal opportunities, innovation. Very much about levelling up investment in Northern culture. There's a real strong feeling that a lot of cultural investment still goes to the South, and the North doesn't get the contribution that it really deserves. And it's about maximising the power of Northern culture to promote that strong and cohesive brand that we've got across the North, and obviously establish the wider recognition of sort of the world-class cultural offer that we've got, and then to invest in it for the future. So as I say, the launch was very well attended. The report makes a collective case for culture in the North, recognising that the North is not a single place, but it's actually a diverse set of communities with different needs and opportunities. The report then goes on to say how it's now recognised that culture has the transformational power to change lives. And when I say now recognised, a lot of us have known this all along, but that hasn't really got bedded in Parliament. They've got a lot to deal with down in Westminster, and sometimes culture does fall off the radar a bit when it comes to decision making, and it's sometimes seen in Parliament as an add-on. And what the ministers present and the MPs present were really stressing was that culture is not an add-on, but it's a key part of levelling up. And the levelling up white paper is due probably the end of this month, early next month. And members of parliament that were there were really stressing that the culture needed to be a really important part of levelling up. And not just levelling up between the south and large northern cities, but right across all of our communities, which is why it's so great that Cumbria was mentioned so much. It's stressed.
So, Colin, we need to wrap up in a sec, but can you tell people where they can go to read the recommendations and the conclusions?
Sure. What we can do is we can get the links circulated, but if you go onto the Northern Culture APBG website, the report is on there, and there's also a recording of the launch. And the final point is really, we shouldn't be afraid to use it, whether it is making the case to our MPs or the new councils that will be set up. It's a really important tool to make the case in the future.
Thank you, Colin. That was a brilliant summary. Thank you for going and representing us as well. Thank you. Tom.
Yeah, and I'll try and get Professor Katie Shaw. I'll try and track her down. Certainly she seems like an impressive operator when I saw a bit of the recording. So we'll try and get her onto one of these calls in the next few weeks and hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. But yeah, important piece of work. Again, there's a link actually on Facebook. I think I put yesterday or the day before. It's about 40. It's quite well laid out, and as Colin said, there's a nice quote from Kate in there on behalf of the network, but a number of other Cumbrians are quoted in there too, and worth perhaps 20 minutes of your time at some stage, even if only just to read the executive summary, which is at the top of the report. Great, thank you, Colin. Thank you, Kate. Well, speaking of culture, we've got Steve Dunn on the call. He is Mr. Culture personified, and we're now going to I was hoping to get Joe Gardin on from Tribe, which is the new area set up in Bitts Park in Carlisle, but Joe had to pull out yesterday evening. So Steve knows quite a lot about Tribe. So Steve, I would invite you just to give us an overview of what's going on in Carlisle at the moment, and we're going to hone in on the old fire station, which Will Morgan runs, and we've got a couple of slides we're going to share with you as well to see what's going on actually at that institution itself. But Steve, first of all, nice to see you. Thank you for coming to the screen this morning. How are things going on in Carlisle at the moment, particularly, I guess, with Tribe and any new developments?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be back. Well, it's really exciting because you feel like there's actually going to be a year happening, that there's going to be things to plan for, because in like community engagement, it's just been like, well, we can't get hold of the community. We can't really do stuff. So it's lovely to think that we're actually been able to get out and get there. And there's so many lovely, lovely plans. I mean, I might as well start with Tribe. I mean, the exciting thing about Tribe is it's something new and in such a lovely new area, and trying to develop this great, lovely new initiative linked right with the community. But we're really worried because winter comes, and how do you stay open? Well, they've been absolutely brilliant, because if you don't know the place, it's like in a big teepee. So you're basically outside, but they've got something on every weekend, from quizzes to bands to DJs. And they're generating some great stuff through the winter. Now, the exciting thing is once they get to spring and summer, it's really going to develop that area. And there's already ideas to make it bigger and offer more things, you know, and link it in with more events. So, I mean, Tribe's just great. If you haven't been, you can get lovely food, drink. It's just a nice place to go and sit. As I say, tricky in the winter, wrap up, but it's very, very nice. But if not, they've got so many things on offer, it's worth having a look. Great thing about the city centre we're looking at as well is really developing the street art. You know, I think people might have seen we're getting a lot more stuff like painted on the buildings, which is absolutely brilliant. But that's just one sort of source of it. We're looking at trying to get art on the pavement. There's some lovely, lovely ideas that we'll share eventually, and stuff in the air as well. You know, like stuff suspended. I don't know whether you've been to Glasgow, where you walk down lovely little alleys and you're sort of like immersed in this lovely area because it's got nice lighting and it's got nice things hanging. Well, we want to do more things like that for Carlisle. You know, so you can come and you can look at the walls, you can look at the floor, you can look in the air, and there's something ace all around you. One of the things that I think is really helping us to trigger that along is the City of Lights. which happened in November and is going to happen again in February. And that whole concept's going to really push a lot of artistic ideas, you know, like digital and using lighting. And the exciting thing is, if we can join all of these things up, the stuff on the floor, the stuff in the air, the stuff on the walls, it's just going to be a really exciting place to come. And there's already organised walks to go and look at some of the new things that are happening, you know, around the ever-changing skyline of Carlisle. So it's dead exciting. You know, we're looking for a lot more open and live music in the city centre and really use it as a beautiful venue because it's a great shape. So it's the city centre's back as a venue. So that's going to give us some ace things to do. You know, because of course I was really scared about the old fire station because that was my job. So now I've got a new job to create, and it's like it's dead exciting. Get involved in all of these things. We're looking at. I'll finish with we're looking at things like there's a thing called the Big Buzz in the summer, which is celebrating pollinators and bees and nature in general. And it's how do you bring that to an urban situation? You know, we're going to look to adopt spaces. You know, where people sort of plant or create little installations, bits of art, stuff like that. So it's all about the lovely trappings of the city and making it look dead fab. But back to the fire station, to lead on to Will, I shouldn't have worried because the venue is in the best hands. It could have been, I feel, the City Council, we took it as far as we could. And at the right time, the right people came along and the programme they're putting together is like superb. I absolutely take my hat off to them. You know, it's like I was worried about standards. Well, that was stupid because they've blown it through the roof. And if you look at this year and even into 2023, it's dead exciting. Get in.
All right. Well, Will, I shall get your slides going in a second. And by the way, the first slide, just put a picture of the old fire station in as the first slide as well, Will. Just to say, Steve, and about Tribe, people, Damon's saying, I can totally recommend Tribe for a great place to hang out. It's great street food, and there is a bar. And Henry from Sustainable Carlisle, we've used Tribe to meet up, COVID friendly, as it feels like outside, but has mulled wine. So let's hope the mulled wine is still possibly available there. But it's a beautiful place, and it was a brave thing to do, I think, to get those shipping containers. It's much more than shipping containers, but I quite like the shipping containers aspect of it. For those of you who don't know Carlisle particularly well, as you go between the castle and the main city, if you look to the left before you get to Hardwick Circus roundabout, look to the left and you'll see it's often got lit up with little lovely white fairy lights everywhere. So it's just a kind of short walk away from the old part of Carlisle City, and it's a lovely park there as well. So I suspect I've heard that people walking with their kids in the morning often go there for a coffee and whatever before they go and play on the playground and stuff. So I like the fact that it varies in its offer through the day and nights for different perhaps sectors of the community. But as ever with these things, these brave decisions, unless they're used, they suffer. So thank you, Steve, as ever, for your huge embracement of possibility and potential and positivity. But let's cross now to the old fire station.
So I was just going to say, can I just ask Steve a question? Just about something?
Go for it, Will.
Steve-o?
Yes. Good morning, Will.
Morning. Just quickly, Steve. So just, all the stuff that you're talking about there sounds great. But from a wider perspective, when you walk through the city now, it's sad, isn't it? Because you walk through, all the big businesses in the city centre are empty. All the big clothes shops are empty. 50% probably of every shop, it feels like, is a charity shop, in the town. The retail side of it just seems dead, and you've got all these empty spaces. I just wondered, if you're part of anything, or if there's any conversations with the council about what they're doing with things like that. Because when you look, I spend a lot of time, I used to work over in Newcastle a lot, and when you're there, so much of the city centre, they're turning into pedestrian areas and putting outside bars and pop-up places, and they're just embracing all those things. They're looking at some of those negatives as a positive and trying to do something different with it. And I just wondered if the city council was doing anything with that.
I mean, there's certainly an ambition to be able to use all of those buildings because it'd be really sad. You're absolutely right. It'd be like a mouthful of loose teeth, won't it, soon? One of the big problems is central government have got their rates. Colin will know more than me, their rent and rate. So what they say to a local authority is, look, you can give that away, but we'll be taking it off you, which you then have to take out of another pot, which you maybe don't have anymore. So the problem lies with and correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, but I think it's central government in the sense that they put a tariff on that's then passed on to the local authority, that's then passed on to the community, and that often holds back the potential of giving things away for nothing. Now, maybe that's got to be looked at. Maybe investment does have to be put in that, and to get round those rents and rates, maybe that's a really good way to go, because we can't let the town just keep dying a bit, you know, and like too many gaps and stuff. So the way
you
forward,
go through, you know, around the corner from us in the historic quarter, you know, you've got Hooper's, what was Bullows, you know, this amazing iconic building that's just sat empty for years and will just become derelict. And then, you know, you've got these amazing properties and you think there must be something that can get done in them.
I think there's got to be investment into those spaces so we can overcome that sort of tariff central government put on, and look a way to do that locally and get over that, because you're absolutely right. It would be tragedy to let those buildings go. You know, it really would. But yeah, but that's probably a big discussion for another day. Actually, we could probably fill days with that. But I think it's worth looking at, because that needs to happen where we can allow people to develop and grow into those empty spaces. Okay.
All right. Good. All good questions. Again, as you say, Steve, a different discussion could try and dig a bit deeper into some of those. But let's go to the old fire station. Will, I'll get your slides up. Tell us how that is going and what you've done to give it new energy. I'll just get your slides up. Off you go.
Yeah, well, if you pull us up, I'll talk you through them as we're going along, yeah?
Okay, here we go.
Okay, right, if you go to the next one.
Just for people that don't know it, that's what it looks like. It's a beautiful building, and that OFS on the top of the tower is fabulous from miles around.
Okay, so my name is Will, and I'm the operator of the old fire station venue in the city. For anybody that is unaware, so the venue was turned from what was an operational fire station for over 100 years, and the council turned it into an arts centre and invested a lot of money in turning what was, as I said, an operational fire station into a live entertainment venue, and they did an amazing job with that and ran it very successfully for many years. Obviously, COVID hit in March 2020 and all venues had to close. So the venue was closed and mothballed, if you would, back in March 2020 and sat empty for about a year and a half. Council, about a year ago, decided that probably the preferred route was it to, for that business was to lease it out to a private company so that we could take the venue over and I guess move on to another level and bring some different ideas to it. So we went through a process with the council and were successful to take over the building and business, and we signed a 10-year lease with the city council. So we took the business over in August last year. We opened the doors to our first gig on the 12th of September. So it was a very busy 2 weeks with not a lot of sleep, getting everything ready to open for the first gig, and our mission, very much our mission statement, is to provide a wide range of eclectic culture for the city and the county by putting on as much music, comedy, and arts and theatre and everything that we possibly can. Next slide. So what do we offer? So the old, as we said, the old fire station is a really iconic venue and building. It's in the heart of the historic quarter and in the heart of the city. The building offers a few different things. So the main room, which is the engine room, so called because that's where all the fire engines were kept. So that's our main theatre room, and that's got a 420 capacity room. So after the Sand Centre, it's the largest venue in the city. The building's fully equipped with all sound and lighting tech. We have a large upstairs area, so we have another room upstairs for around about 100 capacity where we do a lot of private events and corporate work. We've just got our newly refurbished art gallery as well upstairs. We're trying to do more and more with, and we also have a large outdoor private compound, which we've got various things planned to launch into that this year as well. Slide. So just share some of the results that we've had. So as I said, we opened on the 12th of September. So when we look at our actual results in the 3.5 months that we traded, so that was going from an absolute standing start, because obviously the business had been closed for 18 months. So from a standing start from the 12th of September to the end of December, we ran 22 different music gigs through a whole range of different music genres, with 11 comedy nights, 10 private functions, 7 theatre shows, 5 community events. So community events for us were things like working with local bands, doing things with Carlisle College, with local schools and sixth forms to put gigs on for their students and the like. And we've had 3 exhibitions in the art gallery. So in the 3.5 months, we put on 58 events in that 3.5 months. And in total, we've had 7,138 people buy tickets to attend those events, which hasn't been a bad start really at all, I don't think. And also in that time, we've employed 11 new members of staff that we have in the business. So we've been able to generate quite a lot of employment as well, which is always very, very positive. Next slide. So upcoming events, just as a very quick overview. So in 2022, we've already got 127 different events booked in for the year. And we've already also got around about 30 events booked in for 2023. Now COVID seems to be, as they call it, endemic, as they often refer to, and all the restrictions are easing. Everyone's on tour, so we're inundated with bands, comedy, theatre. Everyone wanted to come into us, so we've already got a really full year already planned. Because of the lot of success we've had, and most events we've had have been sold out. So because of that, we're attracting far more famous musicians, bigger bands, bigger comedians, bigger productions. So off the back of that, you know, this year we've already had on this year the likes of Craig Charles, which was a big sellout event, which was fabulous. Off the back of that being a sellout, Trevor Nelson's people got in touch and put in. We've got great bands like Country and Ian Sterling, really famous comedians. So, you know, we've just got so much, and the bigger and bigger names we're getting and attracting, the more sellout events, we generate that income to pay them their fees. It's acting as a catalyst. We're getting more and more of that coming through. We've signed some contracts for monthly residencies for really big national organisations. So people like the Comedy Store in London have signed a contract with us, so they're now on one Saturday every month for the rest of the year, which is great. People like Bingo Loco, which is a global organisation, they've signed a contract to perform every month this year, and we're already sold out every one of those events up until June now. And then we're trying to do different things as well. So in April, we hold a 3-day annual Northwest Tattoo Festival, which would be great, whereby that organisation is taking over the entire building for 3 days, which will just be really interesting. I think festival and bring a lot of people into the city. And I said earlier, we're working a lot with Carlisle College and sixth forms. We're working with Collegiate School and William Howard at Brampton to showcase their final year music students and put events on for them. Last slide. Again, I thought this was just quite an interesting one, because anyone can be busy with events, but it's got to be married with providing a level of service and make sure that your customers actually like what you're doing, and how the staff interact with everyone, and that they're actually enjoying what events we're putting on. So we are fanatical about what our customers think about us after every single event that they come to. So we have 3 ways of measuring our customer satisfaction. So Skiddle is our ticket partner. So everyone that buys a ticket through Skiddle, the day after the event, they get an automated email for them to give us our feedback. We encourage a lot of Google reviews of customers and also Facebook. So what's interesting is that across all the measures, Skiddle, Google or Facebook, we're operating in the top quartile position. So the national average scores there is the national average score for a music venue in England. And in all those measures, we've either got, in essence, almost a perfect score, or we're operating in top quartile. So clearly what we're doing and how the team are operating and interacting with people, the events that we're putting on are striking a chord, and people seem to like what we do. Last slide. So last slide for us is challenges and growth areas. So what we've seen is that when we put on a famous band, a famous comedian, the likes of that, some of these things sell out literally within about 30, 40 minutes, which is great. And we can have these big sellout events, which are very profitable. But the other end, the more sort of cultural end, it's a real struggle actually financially to try to put these things on. So trying to showcase a lot of local up and coming talent, a lot of bands. We try to work with BBC Cumbria to do to have introducing nights with BBC Cumbria and put some of these bands on. We've done some of these nights, and some of those nights are generating maybe 12, 14 ticket sales, people coming in. So they're very loss making, and it's a shame because I really want to work with a lot of local people, but it's a real challenge. We've tried to put on quite a few theatre shows. And again, those have been financially a real struggle. We've not generated enough money to actually pay the travelling theatre company. And art exhibitions in our art gallery, I would love to have a lot more of those. But again, the ones that we've had on so far this year, the turnout for them has been extremely low, and the level of sales on the day for the artist has been extremely low. And again, it's not really been worth everyone's while to do it, whether it be us or the artist. So I think those three areas are growth areas for us. So what I would say is to people on the call is, if anyone has any recommendations, so if there's anyone that can recommend any grants that could help us fund more art exhibitions and maybe put theatre on, because I think the more theatre that we can put on and people have a good time, then that acts as a bit of a catalyst, so that for everyone that we do, hopefully we can get more people back. They tell more people, and in a year or two, I think we could probably have sell-out theatre shows in the city. But at the minute, as a private organisation, we can't bank for a loss-making events until that happens. So again, I'll take questions and answers at the end, but if anyone has any recommendations for that, how we can grow theatre shows, that'd be great. If there's anyone that can recommend any good local artists that could be a bigger draw, then I'd really love to work with people as well on that. And then the last slide is just any Q&A.
Thank you, Will. Great analysis. You know, as you say, it's quite easy to blow your own trumpet when things are going well, but actually there's always challenges and stuff like this. You've done some amazingly successful stuff by the looks of things, and I congratulate you, because it's not an easy market, especially at the moment. And the old fire station is a really important part of the Carlisle and Cumbrian arts and cultural infrastructure, I think. So we need to help make it a success. Has anybody got any questions? One for me while I'm just pulling up chat. Are you worried about the Sands reopening, Will, or is that a totally different market?
I have no concern at all. We're a totally different venue. You know, the kind of things that we put on, the experience. The Sands is fine, isn't it? You need a big venue like that to attract those massive touring shows. But I think for us, it's a different thing. People come and have a different experience. It's more close and personal, and you have a totally closer, more interactive experience here than you would ever have in a big stadium like that. Yeah,
there's some points in chat there, which I'm just coming to terms with, because I've just had to be sharing my screen. Harriet and Rob, well done to Will and the team for bringing this kind of quality and ambition to the city in times like these. Thank you, Will. It's amazing, says Damon, to see such a full programme of events. Great website, by the way. It's a really dynamic website. It's a great venue, and it's brilliant seeing it to be used to its full potential. And Phil's saying the launch of Nick Pemberton's poetry collection, Eat the Peak, at the old fire station was a brilliant event back in September. Lots of local artists and writers there, great venue. And Collins is saying, Steve is right, landlords are doing deals with potential tenants. This is about the wider Carlisle picture. The business rates are set by central government. Culture has a valuable role to play in recovery, increasing footfall and creating places where people want to spend time. You're absolutely right, Colin. I totally concur with that. Has anybody got any questions for Will? And Will, could you put your contacts into chat as well? Because you know your ask at the end there was a good one, I think, and I think people pick up on it. Stefan, what are you saying? If you put something into chat, I can't see it.
Well, if only we had the chair of the Rural Touring Forum on the call.
That would be a good idea. So,
yeah. Sorry, I only say this because my company brought the chef show to Old Fire Station, thanks to Steve Dunn. We had great times there. And I say that because tours. So we were in village halls one night, and then we came to the old fire station. And I only say that because your venue is so, like you've said, Will, it's such a lovely, intimate space. So when you were asking about possible contacts to support the presentation of theatre, might be interesting to talk to the rural touring schemes in the area.
So that's I know Highlights, when the old fire station opened originally a number of years ago, I know Highlights, the people running Highlights who are different now, Steve's nodding, certainly helped to programme some of the theatre that happened at the old fire station. But Will, presumably, are you aware of Highlights Rural Touring Scheme based in Penrith?
I'm not, no.
Okay, I'll drop you a line after this call and I can introduce you to them. Sue, quickly, because it's 10:29. Sue Allen's got a question. Off you go, Sue.
Hi, it was me and Fliss both asked in chat. Will, wonderful things you're doing, but you keep saying we and us. Who are we and us? What is the company that is running the old fire station?
Well, when I say we and us, I basically just mean me. Well, and
okay.
And my very long-suffering, I'm just frozen, and it is also my long-suffering wife, Maxine, as well. So, in essence, I own a few different businesses in the city. One of them is a business called Greystone Leisure, and with the people that have taken on the lease for the fire station, that business is owned by myself and my wife. So it's really a nice family feel because we're here all the time. So we operate it. I have twin boys who are 19 who are in a band. And they often play and do support for bands and work behind the bar as well. So it's great, really. So I think, you know, that's a lot of the feel as well. Customers, when people come in, that they've got people here that really care and passionate and live and breathe it all the time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've reached 10:30, so we're going to pause there. Will, thank you for that. It's great, really great analysis of what's going on at the old fire station. And good luck with the programme for this year and going forward.
Thank you very much.
As well.
I'll put my details in the contact, so if anybody wants to get in touch, then please do.
Great, thank you. Kate, any final thoughts from our chair?
Loads of thoughts from a really good discussion and really varied as usual. We're back next week, aren't we? Even though we're also back on the Saturday. So it's Friday and Saturday next week. And we'll really look forward to seeing as many as possible on the Saturday, some of you face to face.
Yeah, so on Friday's call next week, we've got Ella Jarman-Pinto, who some of you may know. She's a composer based in Penrith. Really interesting woman. She's going to talk about what she does. Stuart Armstrong, who was on the call this morning, is going to talk about the films that he's making in Cumbria and looking for some support there. And Beth is going to talk about some jobs going on at the Corro in Ulverston as well. And then, of course, don't forget, as mentioned last week, the hour after the call next week, Amy Lewis, who's part of CT Consultants, who are doing the piece of work for a new arts and cultural strategy for West Cumbria. He's going to take over from 10:30. And so if you want to join that conversation to get involved in having your say about what should be going on in West Cumbria, do stick around from 10:30 tomorrow morning. We'll just keep the call open and she'll host a workshop about that next week.